Hello, welcome to Spotlight, a ray of creativity to brighten the world's gloom.
Spotlight, brought to you by the Isle of Man Arts Council.
This evening, gardeners beware, theatre's most dangerous plant is coming to a theatre near you. It's Little Shop of Horrors is staged at the Gaiety by Two Feathers Productions. We speak to producer and cast. A long-form gothic folk poem is to be premiered as a film at the Manannan Arts Festival. And a suitably beer-soaked, or something-soaked, post-TT piece of verse from the Bard. Remember, do get in touch with any creative artistic endeavours you might be involved in, planning, hoping to create, or would really like to put in the spotlight. This programme: poetry, theatre, music, literature, ceramics, sculpture perhaps, film, drag, mime, social media, digital, calligraphy, all the above and loads more. Just get in touch is all you need to do, and it costs nothing. Just email me, howardkane@manxradio.com, Kaine, or spotlight@manxradio.com if you prefer. They come to the same place. I read them all, and I would love to get in contact with you to hear what you're up to.
How would you like to be my son? How would you like to be my own adopted boy? I never liked him much before, but count the cash that's in the drawer. I got no choice, I'm much too poor. Say yes!
What for?
Seymour, I want to be your dad. I want to see you climbing up my family tree. I used to think you left a stench, but now I see that you're a man, so I'm
Mushnick and Son from the 2003 Broadway production of Little Shop of Horrors. The good news is, if you're a fan of that musical, or even if you're not for that matter, you don't have to go to Broadway to catch the show, as it's coming to the Gaiety Theatre early next month, courtesy of Two Feathers Productions, the company behind last year's production of Jersey Boys. To find out more, I invited two of the cast and the producer into the Spotlight studio. Quite a squeeze, I can tell you.
F-T-D. How about a Seymour be my son?
My name's Jack Divers and I'm playing Seymour Krelborn.
I'm Meg Walker and I'm playing Audrey.
Last but by no means least,
Alex Toohey. I'm pretending to be a producer.
First off, Alex, right, pretend to tell us a little bit about the plot then. People will know, perhaps, or have heard of the show. Tell us a bit about it.
Oh gosh, where do you start? So this if anybody's seen the 1980s movie starring Rick Moranis, I don't know if these two children next to me would have heard of these people.
Absolutely.
Steve Martin,
One
Bill
of my
Murray,
favourites.
lots of famous people. It's very much a cult classic, or certainly become a cult classic over the years. And it's about this very realistic story, as you would imagine, of a Venus flytrap essentially growing to be 6 feet tall and only growing because he's eating body parts and drinking blood. And he very much sings like James Brown and a few other rock and roll soul singers. But in order for this plant to grow, the plant is in a flower shop called Mushnick and Sons, where Seymour Krelborn, played by Jack Divers, in our production, works. And in order for him to gain fame, and also to find love via Audrey, who works in the shop as well, played by the very talented Meg Walker, who's here with us today. He needs this plant to grow, but then ultimately it gives him a lot of fame, but also a lot of strife, shall we say, and a lot of hassles.
I'm liking the sound of it already. Jack, were you familiar with the play, familiar with the actual role or not?
I was familiar with the film. I remember growing up watching the film. I mean, these sort of shows, Little Shop of Horror, Rocky Horror Picture Show, the storylines and style are very similar in a way. But yeah, I grew up watching the film with Rick Moranis and Steve Martin, just absolute classics. But the musical is slightly different from the film. Not to give any spoilers, but it doesn't have such a happy ending, shall we say. But it's a classic. It's a very, for considering the context of the show, it's actually very feel good. The music is brilliant. It's written by Alan Menken, which a lot of people know from other stuff, so it's recognisable and will get everyone's foot tapping, even though the synopsis sounds a little bit weird.
And it's a bit weird playing, well, yeah, a little bit weird. So are you sort of playing second fiddle to a giant plant?
No, I play second fiddle to the urchins, the three singing girls that we have in Lauren Molyneux, Bryony Grant and Catherine Toohey, and they are absolute powerhouses. Their harmonies and singing. If you came to watch Jersey Boys last year and you like the harmonies, you're going to love this, because the girls' harmonies are absolutely incredible, and they are like the angel or devils on our shoulder, doing our will throughout.
What about you then, Meg? Was it something musically wise, or was it something you were familiar with? You know any of the songs before you got into it?
I kind of vaguely knew the story. I've still to this day never seen the film. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but I kind of knew the vague story, and the only song I really knew was Suddenly Seymour, and that was one though that I did love, and I was like, I would love to sing that. And then so I just decided to audition, and then as part of my audition prep, obviously learnt more about the show and listened to all the songs, and it was just like every single song I listened to, I just loved it more and more and more, and it's fastly become, I literally think, my favourite show. I love it so much. So yeah.
What do you love about it in particular? Just its wackiness, or its?
I think just every single song is just amazing. You know, sometimes in musicals there's just like one or two songs that you could kind of leave out. Yeah, okay. That's when you have a nap. But in this one, just every single one, just musically is phenomenal. And I think the story's got such a good blend of like drama and romance and comedy. Like it just encapsulates everything. I just love it.
What about you, Jack? You're no stranger to bring a great song to life. Any great favourites in this one from a singing point of view?
I really enjoy performing and singing Mushnik and Son. It's a song that I have with my Papa in the show, played by Neil Callan, and it's yeah. He does. We have a really good time with it. It's a really energetic number. It's got some harmonies in it. It's great fun to sing, and I think it'll bring the house down with that one as well.
The plant itself does feature on the stage.
Yes, it does. It features as a little baby and as it grows throughout its life, but then also it features on stage, and it's like I say, a 6-foot plant that lives and breathes on the stage. So it's and also eats people as well. So it's very technical, all of this. But yeah, it's the star of the show. The plant is fantastic, and of course we don't have the plant here to get to grips with, as it were. So we will receive that kind of 5 days before we open. So
right. So logistical issues there, or you won't know until it's here. Is it?
There's logistical issues getting it here. There has been, and I'm sure there'll be more once it's here as well. But we find solutions, not problems, Howard.
And the plant has a distinctive voice.
It does. Like I said before, the singing style is very kind of James Browny, very soul, rock and roll, blend of everything really. But the voice is, it starts off nice and cute, and then very quickly he turns quite menacing. And as Meg's character Audrey finds out later on, of course, they all walk into this shop, and then suddenly this plant is singing, and it's the most normal thing in the world, and then you react to it. But it's a very charming plant as well, when he wants to be.
Suitable for all the show, or is it sort of for older kids, or how would you grade it?
I'd say it's suitable. It's a family favourite. It's fun for all the family. But of course, there's no swearing in the show. It's a lot of tongue-in-cheek humour. It's like the guy said before. It's a comedy. It's a very bright, very vibrant production as well. It's going to be a production that no one's really seen before in terms of Little Shop of Horrors. Tara Overfield Wilkinson and Mark Hilton, who are directors, they very much like to give you a production that you're not expecting, and you won't be expecting this one, because it by the time we get to the end of the production, it becomes quite immersive.
And I was trying to think, is it a premiere on the Isle of Man? Has it been done before here?
It's been done before. It's been done a couple of times before. I don't think for 12 or 13 years or so.
Quite some time, yeah.
So it's been a while. So this will be new to a lot of people, but it will also be new to everybody, because this is going to be a very different production.
The obvious thing is, of course, what, where, when. So going down at the Gaiety, as we heard, so people are interested, and who wouldn't be by the sound of it? I mean, what's not to like? Plant-eating people, and yeah, great. How do you get along? How do you get tickets?
Well, the usual ways, villagaiety.com. The staff are very helpful there, or the telephone number is
600 555.
Just finally, Jack, good comedy in this thing, because again, a lot of comedy, you played a lot of great comic parts as well. Good comedy in this particular part for you?
It's got a load of really good comedy moments. The thing I really love about this show is there is some really genuine, tender, real moments, but then it also flips very quickly as well. It plays that line. It never takes itself too seriously, but it has those moments where you go, oh wait, and then so it changes very quickly. But some really fun comedy moments in there. I think for all of us, we all get a bit of a, it's not just one character is the central comedy character. So lots of elements, like even the voice acting of Ian Manton, who's playing the plant. He adds some really nice bits in there as well, which are just a delight to listen to, but also very funny as well.
Listen, thanks very much indeed for coming in today, and just remains to say, all the cast, break a leg.
Thank you very much.
It's bound to be a smash hit. Let's hope that plant arrives on the island in time. Book your tickets at Villa Gaiety now.
Spotlight, brought to you by the Isle of Man Arts Council.
From stage to screen, you might be familiar with the wordy whirlwind of the north, who is Jackie Murray Grace. We often hear her talk here on Spotlight about her many and varied projects. Jackie describes herself as a dramatic gothic folk performance poet. I'm not going to disagree. And one such piece she has performed, notably at the Erin Arts Centre last year, was the long-form poem on Ravensday Hill. Well, this epic has now been turned into a film. With support from our friends at the Arts Council, I spoke to Jackie to hear more about this project and its imminent premiere.
It all began on a cold winter's day, when a woe tiding of magpies stole swift in low skies. There was frost in the air as they let thieves plundering their fare from the sprawl sacrifice life of the lonely roadside. His beak was a blessed relief as it brushed against mine. Brisk, efficient, swift, and untethered the noose that trapped me for no other reason save to release a bird to the sky until in the glint glare of a low winter's sun, his eyes met with mine. And as the flick of a switch or bang of the gun, a can of worms was opened.
Now, we spoke about this sort of long-form poem a while back. It's now being turned into, or has been turned into, what's described as a short mythic folk horror film. It's in final production. First off, let's just backtrack a little bit first. Just tell us about the original piece then, Ravensdale Hill, because it is like a sort of long-form poetry piece which you wrote, a few years ago now? I can't remember.
So basically, I started writing poetry back in 2017 on the back of a really severe what I think we now know as psoriatic arthritis, flare, and I wrote the Tartar Taboo, which ended up being the Manc Lit Fest slam win for that year, and it was the second poem I'd ever written. That gave me a brilliant boost, obviously having a bit of a platform. And what had actually happened is I'd written the poem as I was trying to rehabilitate from the illness. I'd been ill for a long time and I was trying to rehabilitate and get mobility back into my legs again. And I was doing a lot of it around the area of Ravensdale and Bluff. And I'd written a lot of poems when I was up there. But my big goal was to get to the top of this ridiculously steep hillside, which I'd done when I was a fell runner once. And so that's what I was aiming for, and that's what I call Ravensdale Hill. That's kind of a fictional name. It's a steep slope between Glendew and the top of Ballacob. It's very steep. So that's where the whole series of poems came together. And then I took them along to Storytelling Club and I did them, and I said, I just got a feeling this needs to be like a whole piece, these 5 poems I had. And I went home and I did it. I think I did it in like the space of a week, and I created the whole of On Ravensdale Hill, and it just worked. But I was performing as like a 16-minute performance piece. It's very dramatic, it can be very fast, it's very intense. And the first time I did it was at Dark Horse Festival in 2017, and quite a lot of people came to watch it, I think on a Sunday morning when they probably all had hangovers. And people cried, and it definitely impacted. But that's how my poetry kind of came to be. So I developed as a performance poet, and I couldn't quite find my niche, is what I'm trying to say, because it is very dramatic, fast-paced, intense. I think people feel it, but they don't always catch the words. So people would say to me, I couldn't quite catch a word. So eventually I got some funding for the Arts Council and turned it into a book. So when people said that, I could just say buy the book, which was helpful. But I always wanted to make it more and more accessible. And I think it was last year I started getting more into collaborative performance, and I did Annabelle's Adventures with some other performers who weren't poets. They were dancers and musicians, and Amy on the gong. And from that, I realised that really my strength is in collaboration, and that's how I make my work most accessible. So and then we had the Australians coming over. It's a long story. I think this story could go on forever. But I'd performed on Ravensdale Hill during the pandemic to a group in Australia online. And
that's right. I seem to remember
yeah,
that.
That's right. Yeah. So it was a long time ago. And they really loved it. And they fell in love with the Art Man. So last year they messaged me after we did Annabelle's, and they said, we're doing a tour of Europe, and we really want to come to the Art Man and see Ravensdale. And they came. Unfortunately, I was too ill to take them into the Glen itself. But we did put on a show, which we put together, and they got to perform with us. But because they said they were coming, I got a bit carried away and thought, I'm going to turn it into a film just for them, and managed to secure the Arts Council funding. So that's how the film came about. Unfortunately, we had a glitch, which meant we couldn't do the film, and we had to quickly rejig and do a stage production instead, and that worked fine. But that was great because that gave us a basis for how we would do the film. And then
and that was down the Air Arts Centre last year.
That was Air Arts Centre in September when we did that, and it went really, really well. It was lovely. And then unfortunately I wasn't well last year, and I got worse. I just got worse and worse, so we couldn't do the film. And I was getting to the point I was thinking, it's not, because to do the film we had to climb the big hill. That was part of it. We had to get to the top of that hill. And I had like a plan B because I knew I could take emergency steroids, and that's not reckless. That's something you discuss with your rheumatologist. So I knew I could do it. Anyway, so that's how we kind of thought things were going to go. But I got worse and worse. And then what happened, and I know I've gone way off track after your question, but
I'd expect nothing less.
As always. So what happened, I was kind of thinking we're not going to get it done. I'm not well enough. And I got particularly bad in kind of late December and January because it started to spread. Then Pip contacted me from the Erin Arts Centre in February and said, Jackie, have you got anything from Manannan Festival? And I have gone to that festival every year for 21 years since we moved back to the Isle of Man, me and my husband, when I was expecting my second child 21 years ago today.
Wow.
Yeah, so 17th of June. And we've gone to Manannan Festival ever since because we just love it, and I've always wanted to perform there. So, I thought, what can I do? And my brain was going, I've got nothing, and my mouth said, I've got a film. And we hadn't done it yet. So then it was a case of just rallying all the troops up and working out how to do it. Should I stop there so you can ask me some more questions?
Well, I was going to say, and now it's done. I know I've just had a little look at some of the rushes, as you say, some of the stuff. You've still got colour grading and some final work and bits and pieces to do on it. But I mean, in essence, all the filming has been done. So tell us a little bit about that. So it was actually up on the hill itself, and
So basically, as I said, I haven't been very well, and I've lost a lot of mobility in one of my legs. So that was always going to be an issue. So we decided the first day we would do everything in the Glen with me sitting in a chair. So we did a whole day's filming like that, and that was wonderful. And then a few weeks later, I decided I was going to take the steroid tablets, but actually I had a steroid injection, and when it came to it, I thought, I don't need to take the steroid tablets. I'm good on crutches. I can get up the hill on crutches. So that's what we did. And actually, it was great. We had one day and we did the filming on the hill. And I really wanted the crew to get to the top of the hill as well. Not everybody made it. Not everybody was with us that day. Some people had to turn back. And but it was great. So we've got, anyway, if you come to the film, you'll see how that works. And then the third day's filming, we did all the B-roll, and we did that down in the valley. So that was really nice. And again, we brought the red chair in, so I'm sitting on the red chair a lot. But that's how we put it together. But I cannot tell you how lucky I've been. My team, Howard. It's the most phenomenal team. So there are 11 of us. So people are thinking, oh, this is just going to be a poem and Jackie just reciting a poem and there's going to be, it's not really my thing. You've just seen it. So it's not like that at all. I actually selected the cast. So there's 5 of us. So I'm the only one speaking. But the other 4 people, so it's Owen Atkinson, who people might know as the 7th Manx Bard or as a drag queen, who I always watched as a Raven and did the stage production. And then there's Fern Collister. So I selected Fern from her Instagram account, which is just absolutely beautiful. And then Amy Howes, who's a son, which was just appropriate because she's got the gong. And then I was stuck because I needed a magpie. So we've got I'm the Phoenix, and we've got the Raven, who's Owen. Then we had the Wren, which is Fern. We needed a magpie. And I was just walking around Peel, and I saw this guy who works in Element Isle. And I suddenly thought, because I'd seen I love Element Isle's social media. I thought, oh, he's right. He needs to be my magpie. And actually, it turns out half my crew and cast work in Element Isle. So I asked Fern, who was working there, if she could ask him, and he said yes. So we ended up with this spectacular crew, and I didn't really need to ask. I didn't need to direct people too much because I had a storyboard inside my head. I knew exactly where I wanted things to happen when, and the kind of visual for how I wanted things to be laid out. But because of the cast I'd selected, it was their skills I selected them for, so I knew I could trust them to just do what they normally do when they're doing a social media or whatever, their performances. And they did not let me down. And we coupled that with brilliant makeup artists, brilliant directors, the film guys. That was Adam Morgan and Kiara, I'm not sure it's Canine or Hardesty. And then we had Ava Holt and Olwen Mora, her mother and daughter team on the makeup. And then my husband was there, and he was professional wheelbarrow pusher.
Excellent.
And he made all the masks and the wings and did the fire.
And they are, like I said, this is very much part of it. And having had a brief look, as you say, a taste of the film there. And yeah, the fantastic masks, the great scenery, of course, as you say, up there, lovely costumes, lovely movement and dancing from Owen in the background. So you've got some marvellous movement going on, and a wonderful soundtrack as well.
Yeah, the soundtrack has been really, really fun to put together. So we always knew that we were going to have Amy doing the gong and the singing bowls. Erin Arts Centre very kindly allowed us to use the space to record there because we needed it for the acoustics. So we had a day recording everything. I'd written a soundtrack song, the theme song, and as you know, Howard, I'm a jazz musician, so I invited my friend Lauren Gray, who's a jazz singer, along.
Sounds lovely, yeah.
Yeah, because I can do bits of singing, but she's a singer, so she sings the opening theme song, and she does humming and some other creepy things, and then we had, who else have I missed out? Well, my husband. So we went down to the recording studio, Jip Bagain at Ballagroove Recording Studios, and my husband put on. So he just got these guitar pedals, and he said, "Oh, I've been practicing my guitar pedals, and I think they'll sound really ace in the film." And I was like, "No, too creepy. No, I'm not." I can't handle that. And he persuaded me, and I suppose the film was a bit creepy, and I had to kind of acquiesce to that. It was perfect, the guitar's brilliant, but Ed's also a drummer, so I gave him my shamanic drum, and he just went, he literally just listened to it in one take, did loads of ace drumming, loads of ace guitar stuff, and we had Amy and all her bits. And then I noticed in the recording studio that Jip had a French horn, and I'm a trombonist. I don't play French horn, but I just said, can I take it away and just practice? And I want to get a theme tune on it. So all the horny bits are me playing French horn, and we're going to finish the sound on Friday in the studio, and we have got some crazy French horn, and Jip burst into the studio as I was recording it and put some crazy trumpet over that. So we'll see. It's all been, the whole thing has not been storyboarded, has not been, it's more that it's all been in my head.
Yeah, more organic.
It's been very organic, very spontaneous, very improvisational, and very much like listening back and going, that's right, and fitting everything together like a jigsaw puzzle.
A little more from Jackie next week. The premiere of the film is on the 1st of July as part of the Manannan Arts Festival at the Erin Arts Centre. That's the Tuesday night. It's now becoming the evening to highlight new Manx works during the festival. And there's 3 to highlight this year during the evening, so it sounds like a really splendid night out. And under a tenner, a bit of a bargain to boot. You can book your tickets via the Erin Arts Centre website. To finish, well, a little poetry from the current Manx bard, Jordan Kenyick. We heard a little from Jordan last week, talking about her time as the bard, rapidly coming towards an end, of course, as current bard. And I asked her for some verse, which she was more than happy to provide, naturally. And, of course, it's in her trademark, down-to-earth, no-nonsense realist verse, which doesn't pull its punches, though often with tongue-in-cheek and often quite fruity in its language. So if you're of a delicate disposition or halfway through your tea, or you're not a fan of a messy night at the beer tent at the best of times, don't listen too closely.
Well, I was sat quietly in a dark room the other morning because I was hungover, and I wrote this poem in memoriam of the previous night at Bushy's.
Excellent.
So I will read that, I think. And this poem is just titled A Night in Bushy's. Laughing with mates on a warm evening, sitting atop the slope, back to the banners, occasionally shifting positions on the well-trodden dead grass, trying to stave away the pins and needles in my pasty legs, though for the last hour I've been dealing with a totally dead ass. Whether the ground underneath me is wet from my spilled wine or another unidentifiable fluid, I am unsure. I hope very much that it's the former, but I see the sozzled men slink out of the queue and over to the back tree line. I smell the ammonia, and accept it's probably piss. But there are so many things to enjoy here. On a sunny bank holiday, it's bliss. Beer, builders' bum cracks, bucket hats, tourists sporting their new 3 legs tats and t-shirts with fairies and Manx cats, chunky vomits, chicken wings, and shedding tears over £7.50 cheeky Vimtos. People strike a pose for aesthetic photos to post on their Insta later, with the caption, "Jesus is a friend of mine." My trek to the toilet for a wee was an assault on the senses. No bog roll in the dispensers as usual, but a scrunched up napkin from earlier donuts found in my jeans pocket does the trick. Scran from the food van scoffed to assuage the insatiable half-cut hunger. Everyone flocks to the stage as the night ends. Dancing, laughing, vibing with friends. In this moment we are happy. Not a thought in our heads. I am twirling around without a care. The fella next to me sends his pint up in the air. And now, as well as my heart, I've got bushes in my bloody hair.
She's a hardcore party animal, our bard. Well, for the next couple of months at least. Though she'll carry on partying after being a bard, I imagine. Who knows what the next bard will bring to the role? I'm off for a rather more civilised G&T or a glass of vino, but I will be back next week when we'll hear about the One World Stage on Timble Day, among other joys. See you then, be good, and whatever you're doing, be creative about it. Hey, Moo.